Okay, we are verbally and audibly live. So welcome to a. Oh no, I've got it back. I didn't even silence my own video. Ah! I was gonna have my own echo. So welcome on a Tuesday, everybody. This is my first of two live videos that are gonna happen today, God willing. And y'all remember my good friend Kevon, and I will take away this and do this so that we can see you. Okay. Whoops, I'm not there. What happened? Give me back. Oh no. Oh no. I've got some user error going on. Well, just say hi anyway. They can hear you.
Hello. Hello again, everybody.
Yes. Glad you're here. Now I'm jumping into other people's. Oh my gosh, this is a mess. So tell us how you've been. It's been a while since I had you on, and all of a sudden you're like, we need to go live again. What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, we've had like this recurring thing about, me starting this YouTube and it's finally coming along. And I've been pretty much focused on that and some pretty cool content releases, but I'll update you guys next time or, as we go along. But but I've been pretty zenned out, you know, during this whole pandemic thing. Pandemic. So
Well, I
yeah.
titled I
How about
titled this
yourself?
I titled this "Leaving Tyranny" because
Oh,
you said something about
yeah.
leaving New York, the state of New York. Are you still thinking about doing that?
Well, maybe long term. I kind of always joke about it, but I'm a city kid. I love New York. You know, with all my heart. It's just the mentality there. Generally, at least on the surface, it can rub me the wrong way sometimes. But I kind of fluctuate between wanting to be like that martyr, and try to kind of influence a new way of viewing a lot of things in society, different approaches, social approaches. Um, and I don't know if we spoke about this the last time I was on, but I've been kind of active, marginally in discussions with people who are running for public office or who are already there.
Okay.
And I want to be able to influence the places that need most common sense policy change. And New York is pretty high up there. And with the whole stuff going on with like Cuomo and everything, it's funny that I've seen, some New Yorkers actually like kind of come to his defense. And that brought me back to during the whole, episode or the saga where he was like this poster child for, coronavirus,
Right.
handling it, you know. And it again, it's just those are the times where like I'm kind of on a downswing where it's like, how do you not see what's really going on? So people like to your point, you actually made the point. This could be, a distraction from, the crimes that or the corruption surrounding, the nursing homes
Mhm.
and all the deaths surrounding that. So, obviously we're in 2021. I don't necessarily physically need to be in New York to, make any influences socially or, even politically at all. But um, long term, yeah. I mean, to be honest, I want to get away from the cold,
Yeah.
but
Well, to be clear, in
um,
case anyone doesn't know, we're talking about the Andrew. I'm sure most people might know, but Andrew Cuomo and his sexcapades and him being inappropriate with women, which it turns out it seems if you have any kind of notoriety, even in the Christian realm, as the stuff that comes out with Ravi Zacharias and all and everything, there there just seems to be that too much opportunity for that and people really succumbing to this sexual harassment thing. So it shouldn't shock anybody, but sadly it seems to be taking center stage over him killing thousands of people by shoving them all into nursing homes and then kind of denying it even though the truth is coming out. So that's why I said I think it's really trying to pull people away from that. And not that that's intended to be the bulk of your story, but just to clarify for anyone who
right.
didn't know.
And to your point, I mean, whether he resigns or not, for whether it's like the more heinous side of it or and that's not to mitigate, or to diminish the seriousness of sexual assault at all. But I
Right.
think there's probably going to be a bigger uproar over, the coronavirus corruption stuff. You know what I mean? So,
Let's hope so.
um, yeah, yeah. But either way, like, I mean, I know there's many calls for him to be gone regardless in the
Yeah.
wake of like the phenomena of, Trump being in office and people are kind of more focused on these players. You know what I mean?
Right. They don't have Trump to talk about anymore, so now they're actually eating their own a little bit and going
Yeah.
after some of these
Yeah.
other politicians. And I just heard Texas today dropped their mask mandate. So a lot of states, we dropped our mask mandate a few weeks ago and dropped all restrictions. Like any restrictions of how many people could be in a space was dropped at the beginning of the year. And then the mask mandate was dropped. Maybe it's been a whole month, but uh, in Texas has followed suit, and I think there's a few other states that have dropped their mask mandate. So as these states are doing that, but New York is getting harsher and even trying to put out a law to force vaccinations, and I'm sure you've seen that.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think it's gonna work. New Yorkers, we can be kind of docile in the realm of like politics and stuff like that, or policy, I should say. But I mean, the whole vaccine thing. I mean, after speaking to my friends, I'm actually somewhat uh, impressed or satisfied with the reception lately surrounding vaccines for the
Good.
most part.
So people don't want it, is what you're
They
saying.
don't want it. They don't want it.
Good.
They don't.
Because
It's a pleasant surprise.
yeah, I'm not getting a lot of information from people either way because I don't really try to bring it up. I just go to the gym, I work out, go to the grocery store, buy my stuff. I'm not
Mhm,
really that sociable anyway with people I don't know. But the like
mhm,
people, women in my Bible study don't want to do it. The people in my Monday night Bible study don't want to do it. But I would hope and expect that.
mhm.
But you see that sometimes on the social media, people are bragging like we just got Pfizer, we just got
Yeah,
our Moderna, and
yeah.
they're
I mean,
excited about it.
definitely. Just and I think there's still too many people, for me locally or whatever in general that just, I mean, you can't tell them anything.
Yeah,
There's no getting around that.
that is frustrating, right? Because we just have to like let it go and have
Yeah,
compassion. And I finding it hard to. I want to say something to all the people still wearing masks. I want to say you don't have to wear that, but I know what's going to happen. It's kind of pointless. They're going to be like, "Well, I think it's a good idea," and
yeah,
I'm just going to be
yeah.
like, "Okay, well, what can I say?"
It's pretty redundant. I mean, they've already made up their minds. I mean, you know, we went from Fauci literally like telling us straight up, like, you don't have to wear a mask, right? And then now we're at two masks. But I promise you, if he were to tell us, just start crawling, it's airborne over, 5 feet,
Yeah, or
people will
6 feet
start,
is probably what they'd pick.
they'll put their head down. Yeah, 6 feet. That's a good one. 6 and 6, 6, 6. They'll put their heads down, or crawl. You know what I mean? Like I really wouldn't put it past some people, certainly, or they will just avoid going outside in general. And it's sad. Maybe like 4 years ago we would laugh about this, but there's a lot of truth to it. You know.
I think a year, well, not a year ago. Now that it's been a year. I was going to say a year ago, I would think that was crazy, but I can't say that anymore because
Yeah.
it's been a year. But 2 years ago, I mean, I look back on videos. I've been watching RV conversions and bus conversions and stuff, and I'm like,
Mhm.
people going into stores without masks, and I'm like, that'd be unheard of now. And
Yeah.
for how long? I mean, I bet it's going to go for a long time that people are just going to continue to wear masks for good. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I wonder. What do you think?
Well, I think again, like it's the power of the media, man. Like it's if the media says it, then it goes. And
Yeah.
if the media says, okay, coronavirus is officially gone, don't
Yeah.
have to wear masks, as a matter of fact, if we wear masks after this specific day, after at 4:32
Yeah,
p.m.,
right?
then like literally people would be like, oh my God,
At
let's
4:32.
set a countdown. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
it's sad. Like it's this past year, like you said, over a year now, about a year, I've definitely been pretty surprised at how gullible, humanity is. And there was a video actually that I saw recently. Actually made me feel bad because I probably would have possibly fallen victim too. There's this guy, he's standing outside of this department store with a lint roller. And there are these people, as they're walking to the entrance, he's like, checking them and whatnot. And they're not even questioning anything. They're just arms up and, you know,
With a lint
and
roller.
it, he's, yeah, the lint roller. And, he's trolling obviously. And like these people, they don't even
Jeez.
like stop to question it or anything. Like we just literally just have given up our, you know, we're on autopilot now, and I probably would have, I don't know. If I was just in the motion of things, who knows? But
Well, that's a good point because I was at Walmart before all this jazz happened, and
mhm,
people were kind of not lining up very well for the self checkout. They're kind of some over here and some over there. And I was talking to a gal behind me, and I said, wouldn't it be nice if we just kind of all lined up behind each other, right? So that we knew who was next. And she's
right.
like, I know, right? And I said, I tell you what, though, if they put stickers down that showed you where you're supposed to stand, I said everyone would
Wow.
do it. And she goes, oh, I don't even think they do it. Then I said, oh, they would do it. If you just
Oh
put the
wow. And
little
that was
line, yeah, it was just a funny conversation. Then here we are seeing
a
exactly that.
very
And I'm so glad I have a friend, and she in the beginning was a little bit scared. I'm going to get back to your YouTube, so you're not getting out of that. But in the beginning, she was actually scared. She says we're going to stay indoors, like it all recommends. And I was like, no, it was a beautiful day too. I won't forget. I'll be like, don't stay indoors. Go outside. It's so nice. Hang out with me today. And she's like, no, we're not going to. But it didn't take long, thank goodness, for her to figure it out, and her boyfriend too. And they were like, and it was the greatest news for me to hear her say, Lucas kind of thinking that maybe you're right, saying I think Aaron's right about this. And now she, once the mask mandate dropped, she told her son, because he's so used to it because they have to wear them in school, and she has
yeah.
to have him in school. She's got a job that she goes to 5 days a week. So anyway, they have to wear the mask. And she told her son, she goes, well, now that there's not a mask mandate, you're taking it off. And she has to remind him, take it off. You're not wearing it anymore. We're not doing it anymore. And this is somebody who she was like didn't want to really buck the system, and so she'd wear it. Wouldn't argue. She
Mhm.
just kind of wear it. But even though she thought I was right, it took her a while to get there. And she even said something about
Mhm.
she'd have vaccinated her own son if it meant how getting him back in school for if he couldn't
Yeah.
go to school. But I think now, so you have these baby steps with some people, right? Where first she was
Yeah.
scared of it and then she wasn't, but she still
Mhm.
wore the mask because she didn't want to push back. But now that the mask mandates dropped, she's refusing to wear it, and she's telling her
Yeah.
son to do the same thing. And at first she said she's to get her son vaccinated, but now when I kind of bring it up, she doesn't look at me like I have three heads anymore. And I
Right.
think so. It's just sometimes there are people we can work with a little bit at a time,
A little bit at a time.
and
Yeah.
if we love them, and if I could do this with not just my friends but with other people I don't even know, and just love them through it,
Yeah.
then maybe we can help a few people. And instead of, and I'm talking about me, not you, getting self-righteous and thinking we got it all figured out and we
Mhm.
know it all, and
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
dummies that don't have this. And there
I'm
are some
so glad you
dummies,
said
but
that.
but yeah, go
So
ahead.
glad you said that. Yeah. This is a very humbling time, I have to say, in our humans' history, because you know, just when you think that you got it all figured out, like, something just happens and you're just like, wow, this is really 1984, like for real, for real. And you made a really good point about being more loving and caring and patient, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, these most of these people, they're just innocent people who just want to be safe, right? And I get caught up in saying, "You guys are so stupid." And I mean, yeah, I mean, a lot of these people are.
Some are,
And
yeah.
what bothers me are the people who try to enforce this stuff on other people. You know what I mean? So I
Yeah, like
think that's the one
Israel,
thing.
they went around and asked people in Israel what do you think, and it was mixed reviews. Some people are like, well, you shouldn't force it, but you should also be able to say, well, you can't fly into our country if you don't get it, like the vaccine. And then there were some people that said you should be able to force it for the greater good, so they're caught up in that mindset. And then of course there's the
Yeah.
person that says you shouldn't. And so I would assume it's probably the same here. There's going to be people that think you should enforce it. There's going to be people
Mhm.
that think you shouldn't, or there's going to be people in the middle that say don't enforce it, but don't allow certain rights. And
Right.
I just got a passport, which bums me out because I appreciate the gift that someone gifted me dollars to be able to purchase a passport for me and my two children for
Mhm.
possible travel, you know, in the future out of the country. And now it kind of looks like we won't be able to do that without having to acquiesce to some kind of testing or vaccination.
Well, in my personal belief, I think all of this is like I honestly do not think that the bad guys are in control, right? And that's a whole another tunnel. But
Right.
I firmly believe this in my heart and through research that like this is for people to see what President Trump was warning us about, right? The importance of your freedom, the importance of resisting socialism, communism in the homeland. We haven't really seen anything like this ever, right? We've
Yep.
been living in many under elements of communism under socialism, but not this in our face, And this is at a point where our own citizens are at war with other citizens. And the worse this gets, right? And hopefully it's not for too long, right? But the worse this gets, the more people are going to stand up and start to really put out, the truth, like the real truth, unshamefully, shamelessly, not unshamefully, un nah, I lost the first word, but shamelessly, I kind of fused them together. But and like without any fear, right? I see a lot more people who have been dormant, like for pretty much all as long as I've known them, some people for maybe a decade or whatever, quiet people. And they're like, this just doesn't make sense. I'm like, yes, speak up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think this is for people to really see just what this country can become or what it can be. This is just a taste of it, but it's really bad for people who understand the importance of having your freedoms. You know what I mean? But
Yes.
that's just me.
Well, okay. So before I forget and just keep talking about this, which we can do forever. Uh,
Yeah.
you said you were going to start a YouTube, you're collaborating with the girlfriend.
Yeah.
How's it
Yeah,
going?
yeah. Well, so the one that I'm starting up initially, this is like kind of the cake itself show kind of thing where I do feature a bunch of people. What we're doing is
Okay.
pretty separate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And yeah, yeah. So lately I've been kind of surveying people. I've done like the introductory video. We're actually editing that like probably right as we speak. And then I've been kind of surveying around for other topics like what do people, want to explore, what are people curious about, like and I'm really kind of targeting the normies
Good.
at first so that we can kind of like bring them on board with like kind of policy or politics for dummies kind of. And I don't really like the word politics, but it's more so like we're kind of phased out of that, like whatever the heck this is. I don't know, like reality 101. I don't know.
Sure.
So basic things that
You can't even say red
for
pills because
me.
they just gonna. That's like been put in a weird
Yeah, like,
box too.
we'll start with pink pills,
Yeah.
you know,
It's a
and then we'll
little
kind of phase in.
trickle of truth.
Yeah, exactly, and then we'll get uh, some red dust, and then full pills, and then maroon pills eventually.
Yeah.
The whole goal is for us to all be on the same page. No one person is right about every single thing, and I
That's
think if
true.
we just apply more passion, even for myself too. You know what I mean? Like I get really impatient with what I feel is just so obvious. I'm pretty sure you and I, probably experience that every day. Where it's just like, guys, what the hell? And we do have a responsibility, and we should wield it very carefully because I mean this is the grandstand as far as what I'm seeing.
You'll have to at the end. Don't let me forget to go over where we can find you, like your YouTube and stuff. Right now, I have your 7K Metals website just right below us in the so everyone can see that right now in the screen. Okay, so look at that, you guys. So if you have interest in and haven't gotten involved, then Kevon is who you want to work with. And even so, you'd still be working with me actually. So it kind of just works that way. They end up with me as well. And you can get started on your gold and silver stacking. And we do, while it looks like we don't have a lot of stuff, we still have gold and silver eagles. We are the only company that sold silver eagles when the squeeze first started on silver, and other companies shut down their sales for almost 2 days straight, we were still selling Silver Eagles. The only company in the world that was still selling Silver Eagles. So
Wow.
also we have health insurance. So if anyone's lost a job or their health care coverage for any reason, there was, and I'm gonna not veer off of this for too long, but I just want to mention that there was a guy who didn't lose his health insurance, but to keep it, he was paying $4,000 a month because he had a history of cancer. He was currently in remission, but they were charging him $4,000 a month, and he got insurance through us, and it's down to $400 a month. So it's obviously a decent program, decently covered. I have friends locally that use it, so that's something to think about. We're not just a gold and silver company. We're a real system that tries to give you the things that every working job would give you, which is an income, the ability to set yourself up for retirement, and health insurance for those of you that really kind of want to have a regular visit to the doctor or even get your teeth cleaned. So there was something I wanted to say. Oh yeah, remind me to get out your YouTube information. Recently, I posted something that you and I had a little back and forth on Facebook. People are quarantining their children alone. This is happening for real, and it is something that I don't know if they misunderstood, but I think if you look at the guidelines for some of these schools, and it's a school guideline, that they are actually being told to quarantine their children away from the rest of the family, to use a different bathroom, to use a different bedroom, to eat alone. And we saw a post from somebody who had quarantined their 10-year-old, and it broke her heart to listen to him cry on the other side of the door. And then somebody else put their 7-year-old in the basement. And how is this? I want to hear. I mean, I think I know what you're
I,
going to say, but how is this not child abuse?
well, but it is, and you know, see, when you have a system that is entrenched in child abuse,
Hmm,
right, and
right.
they're pretty much, delegating policy to us, of course, child abuse would be some of that, right?
Yeah,
I
right.
mean, when I say this is the grandstand, this is the grandstand. They're pulling all stops. If this was about a virus, you think, our kids, you think they would tell us to go this far? No, of course not.
Jeez.
Come on.
Right.
Even if it was a virus, like, and that's where I get frustrated. And that goes back to the whole, not everyone's stupid, but, come on. A kid, 5, 7 years old. What? Come on.
That it's
Makes zero sense.
terrifying. It's terrifying. I'm so sad for kids who are purposely abused, but this is like you said, this is another level of abuse that people don't think they're abusing. They're getting a
Yeah.
guideline. They're going along with it, oh well, it says I need to do this. Go ahead and take the
Mhm.
roller, like you said. Oh, let's put my arms
Yeah.
out. And they read that and they quarantine their children alone for 14 days. That's and what do they do in prisons when you are one of the worst of the worst, or they want to really punish you? They put you in isolation.
Solitary confinement.
Right.
Yeah. What a way to treat a kid, right? Like, I'm thinking about the trauma, like the lifelong trauma that's
Right.
being caused on these children. There's certain things that I think
Oh,
about when one incident, like, 3 seconds long, that still affects me. I've healed since, but, like, I mean,
yeah.
14 days? Your own parents on the other side of,
On
"Oh,
the
it's gonna be okay, honey.
Yeah,
Don't
while you're
worry."
bawling. Well, I mean, you can picture it. When kids are crying like that, you don't do. I just. I mean, I've been there where my kids are crying just from a punishment, right? But they're in their room no longer than 30 minutes from a
Yeah.
punishment. It's like you go to your room because you need that time out. You need to settle down. You need to just
Mhm.
their tantrum. But I don't sit there by the door and say it's okay. Come out in 14 days. It's all gonna be
And how does
okay.
that even work? I mean, like, you're cooking them food, like, how you're touching well, how does that work?
And no, there's no
Like,
logic. You're right. They're touching everything. They're still touching the same things. In fact, I was watching a video on a bus remodel, and the guy decided to quarantine because one of his friends tested positive, and so he quarantines himself. So his sister has to go to the store for him, but she's holding the bag with no gloves and tosses him the bag of stuff that she bought, and he grabs it. And I was like, you guys, like you might as well have just come close together and handed it off.
yeah, might as well, and the weird thing is, I fly a lot, pretty much every week, And for some reason, flight attendants, man, these people are just so, I mean, they are really militant with this mask stuff, man. And my thing is, we're all on a metal tube anyway. You know what I mean? And it sucks that you gotta like if you want to take a breather on like a 4 hour flight, you go to,
Right?
you know, the the 2 by 2, little lavatory and you take your mask. What a place to take your mask off
Ugh,
and get some fresh air, right?
I hate
But it's
flying
just like,
anyway.
yeah, it's just treating each other like second class, even third class citizens. Just something about that it doesn't just rub me the wrong way. It actually somewhat frightens me, and I'm a pretty unshakable man. Okay, it's that's the biggest thing for me, you know. And even more than that is when you're just in this, grocery store, and you have like another citizen. Please, let's go. Like it's just you're too close. First of all, like back
And
up.
how many times
You
are
know,
they touching theirs?
yeah,
Touch, touch,
and
touch.
I mean, and what do you do? Like you when you got to sneeze or cough, you pull it. Like what do you do? It's just nonsense. It's nonsense. But it's a great sign that Texas,
Hmm.
Montana, I love it. I
And
love it.
Doc said Florida. Florida also dropped their
Florida,
mask
yeah,
mandate. So there are places coming around, and our governor won't change that. In fact, I was telling somebody that I'm putting my kids back in school in the fall. It's a Christian school, a private, really small school. But he's like, "Oh, if schools will even be open," I'm like, "Well, our schools have been open here." So while it may not last forever, and I'll get that too. Like, well, just wait, it's coming your way. I get it. It might be, but for now, we have a Republican governor who has dropped the mandates, dropped the restrictions, and we still have a lot of our freedoms up here. And for that, I am grateful on a daily basis. It just stinks to think that if I travel much, that'll change. Now, I know
yeah,
Wyoming, I didn't ever wear a mask when I traveled through Wyoming, and I got no problems last summer. South Dakota
mhm,
never locked down and never required a mask mandate, so I don't think we'll see that happen anytime that
right,
Kristi Noem is still in there. And so
right,
we just gotta test it out. But even here, I'm like testing it out. We went to the dentist today, and I'm like, even though they dropped the mask mandate, I'm like, the dentist oddly seems to be a place that they still want you to wear masks. But we walked in
right.
without them, and they didn't say anything. So
Good.
praise the
Yeah.
Lord. But yet I went to the bank, and the bank's like, if you want to come inside, you have to wear a mask.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
It's the contrast is pretty crazy. I haven't really been to any places that are fully like, free yet of the mandates.
Right.
But yeah, like Cali, there's times where I've been to LA and they really they go hard.
Mm,
New York, yeah, you'll find little pockets because, the thing with I think New York is like if you're, you know, one of the few non-cheap out there, then you're pretty demonstrative about it, you know?
yep.
So I know a few business owners, not many, that I mean they'll literally go out of their way to make a case, like they'll be conspicuous about making a point, which is pretty encouraging. But until more people, take a page out of that book, the bureaucrats they're gonna try to take more advantage.
And you think
Sure.
maybe you can get an inside leg and try to make an actual political change on the inside?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I know that we've got some good guys on our side. That much I do know. I can go to sleep feeling a little bit better, knowing that there are people out there everywhere, not just in America
Yeah.
too, like in the world that they're trying. And the problem is they just don't have the media on their side.
Yeah.
Public opinion is the biggest power. I've learned this. I mean, for since I was a kid, really, but like I mean, at this point, it's and Project Mockingbird and all these programs that we have access to the information on. People just a lot of too many people, not enough people are chalking it up as something worth diving into, and that, pretty much offsets, the consensus belief that something really heinous is going on, you know.
And look at what it's causing within families. So, Joe just made a
Mhm.
good point. He hasn't seen his grandkids for a year, so
Oh
or his
my God.
grandson for almost a year, and so that's going to cause issues within the family now. Now it's like some family members are going to be like I have a brother that thinks that he actually called me an a-hole because I wouldn't wear a mask, and yet he came over to have dinner with my parents who are in their 70s and he didn't wear a mask. So I mean, it's just illogical, but
Yeah.
we've got this division now where he thinks that he tells my he in fact he's so rude, so disrespectful to my dad. I don't even bother trying to talk to the guy because I just know what he'd throw at me. It's just not worth it.
Yeah.
But
Right.
it's just my dad will try every once in a while, and my dad's brother, his wife will say something every once in a while, and he'll just be downright awful. But it's like if in any other situation we wouldn't have that kind of conversation. That would be so
Mhm.
disrespectful. But he
Yeah.
thinks he's
Yeah.
saving lives.
Yeah. Righteous is that, right? That
Oh yes.
self-righteousness. Yeah. And again, the media. No one wakes up saying, you know what? I'm better than everyone else not wearing a mask. It's like, no, that comes from somewhere, you know. It happened overnight, like literally overnight. So,
Well, the Babylon Bee had a funny thing because it said people that were enjoying, as the mandates drop, people who were enjoying yelling at people for not wearing a mask feel like they're unimportant again.
yeah,
It's like
exactly.
we need to give them
Exactly.
something to be mad about. And there was another one that they did where you can get these blinker virtue signaling blinker stickers that it says
Mhm.
I'm better than this person as it blinks that way or as it blinks that way.
Yeah. That, you know, it's funny you see stuff like that in like cartoons and stuff like that, and it makes you kind of wonder, like, yeah, they definitely kind of they had to have mapped this stuff out, man. Like they had to have,
Yeah, you'd
you've
think.
had people right, left, and when I say right, left, I mean like good guy, bad guy, who have like telegraphed all this stuff decades in advance. Um, it's just interesting, man.
I
Very interesting.
I was just telling somebody that Snapchat had those face mask filters 2 years before this started, and I remember
Hmm.
them. They were really popular on, and I don't use Snapchat anymore, but I remember
Yeah, I
those
remember.
filters.
Yeah, me too. Me
Lots of
too.
face
It's
masks.
like masks, like what? Like you know what I mean? Like for what? And then Future, that rap artist, he had a song, mask on, mask off, and who thinks about that? And I remember making a post about being rebellious and like not you know conforming, and I used that song lyric, mask off, F it, mask off, as you know, as a parody, and it hit me. I was like, "What mask?" You know what I mean? And I went down the deep dive, and I've learned that back in the early 1900s, the same thing that's going on right now happened, and scientifically, they declared that the masks were not only ineffective but quite dangerous to the human body.
Yep.
So they had like this massive mask burning or whatever the case was, and they used their common sense again.
Maybe that'll
You know,
happen for us. I hope so. We can pray for that because that's the other thing I have to remember when I want to get mad at people wearing a mask, especially at the gym walking the track. I
oh
have to remind myself all they're doing is causing problems to their own health, and that's kind of sad.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
guess they're going to suffer enough without me telling them anything.
Telling them that. Yeah, I saw these high school basketball players, and that's quite the sport to wear a
Yes,
mask. You know what I mean? Like working out is one
that's
thing; you can pace yourself,
tiring.
but in a competitive sport, come on, you're huffing and puffing, and running, you're pushing guys sometimes 10 times 10 times bigger than you, and it's
Hmm.
like how are the parents not resisting it? I would pull my kid out of games.
Yep,
I'm just saying,
that's
you
the
know what I
other
mean?
problem as parents.
Yeah, not enough, not enough, not enough. I would be that guy. I saw this one guy. He's like, you guys can just go ahead and arrest me. Just make sure. I'm just gonna make sure this gets recorded. I'd be that guy because you have to. You can't tell people what's going on. You know what I mean? You can try to, but you got to show them. You got to make them feel the magnitude of what's going on. Like, there's an incident where I was in Macy's and I probably spoke to you about this on your show, but there was on your channel, and this lady, this cashier, she was just like really like just giving it to me. And I was like, all right, let's make this into a thing. Like I was like, yeah, let's
Like
beef
she
this
wanted
up.
you to put a
And
mask on, or
she
what?
wanted me to no, I had my mask like up to here.
Okay.
She's like, you gotta put your mask up. And I was just like, boop, boop. And she goes like, she's all like sassy, whatever. And we made it a thing. I was like, yeah, no, let's do this. Let's let everyone hear us so they can look
Right.
at you and understand that this is over a mask that I have on my face. I'm not even 10 feet near you. I'm still online. There's still like 3 people ahead of me. So I ended up just throwing my stuff to the side and I just left with my brother. And, my brother, funny enough, we spoke about that again yesterday. And, I kind of felt that he was just kind of like, dude, like, why didn't you just be cool about it? But he's like, the same thing with him the other day. He was with his girlfriend and she was giving him shit. I mean, sorry, sorry. She
That's
was giving
okay.
him, crap for not, being urgent about, recovering his mask. They left the car and then he's just like, nah, I'm not doing that. Like, let's just go. And he's in Georgia now. He told me that they didn't really bother him.
Yeah.
The only person that was bothering him was his girlfriend. And I go, you know what I mean? Sometimes we go to the grocery store and she's like, please, just I don't want to deal with it. She doesn't believe in the mask thing either. She's like, she knows it's stupid, but she'd rather not deal with, the crap that people, these Nazis, these civilian Nazis, it's so frustrating. But I tell her, like, look, if we don't push back, who will? You know what I mean? You can't rely on other people to do it. Yeah, there's people on the front lines really, policy wise that are trying to change it, but we have to want it. What's the point of freedom if you're not going to fight for it? What's the point of it if you're not going to try to, will it back into your life? You know?
Well, you make that point again of the person that just doesn't want to deal with the pushback, and that's why it took me a while to go out because I wasn't going to wear a mask and I wasn't going to put a mask on my children. But I finally would go out and I wouldn't wear a mask and I would just wait to see what happened. And if anyone gave me dirty looks, I don't know. I didn't look at people to see if they were doing it. I just
Yeah.
did my thing, but nobody said anything ever. And then just like what you were saying, so okay, so I went into Costco recently and I wore the mask going through the door because I wasn't going to argue. I
Right.
wanted something from Costco, so I wore it inside the door. Then I took it off, and then I couldn't find what I wanted, and so I had to ask somebody. And then I knew I was like, now that I have to ask somebody, I know they're going to say something, and so I
Yeah.
asked the guy. But the thing is, he told me where the stuff was I needed first, which is great.
Mhm.
Then he says,
Right.
"Could you please put your mask on?" I am wearing a mask, and he goes, "No, you're not." And I said, "You just can't see it." And then I walked on. And if he would have followed me, I would have just put it on. So if he would have been
Yeah.
like, "Oh, breaker, breaker, we got,
Yeah.
somebody
Yeah.
get somebody in here," I would have been like, "I'll wear it, I'll wear it, I'll wear it." Like, so that's
Yeah.
the point I'm willing to go, is I'm not willing to cause a massive scene. I'm not going to get
Yeah.
arrested over it, which I don't actually think
Right.
they do here, but I'm not going to go to that point because what they're doing with those videos is taking those people and making them look like the crazy ones. Like there's some video
Crazy. Yeah.
trying to go around about some gal that had a tantrum and wouldn't put her mask on and sat on the floor, and I'm like, if it got to that point, I'd just leave. Just
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah. Yeah.
don't have a
Yeah.
tantrum. Don't flip out. And also, some of these are setups. I'm sure of it. Did you see the QAnon gal that supposedly knocked all the masks off at Target, and then her
No,
husband
no, but that's definitely, yeah. They try to do that stuff a lot to make the patriots look
yeah,
kind of like they're the nutcases and that
totally
we
set
don't
up half
really
the
care
time.
about. Yeah, it usually is like even with the Capitol Hill
Yes.
stuff. There's stuff coming out, and you try to tell people again. You try to tell them, nah, I don't believe it. It's been debunked. By who? By who? The same mainstream media that covered up. I don't want to demonetize or
Yeah.
shut
Oh, I'm
down your
already
channel.
demonetized. Yeah. Don't
No,
worry
you're
about that.
of course,
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
course you are. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Some of these big
I,
channels are still getting lots of money, which is interesting. But nope, I got demonetized probably a year ago, I think.
there's a lot of channels that have gotten deleted, and then they will go back up, and then deleted, and then they will pull down some of their videos, but they'll be counterfeit, like I guess you could maybe not burner accounts, but like posers posing as these big,
Right.
people, and they're monetized, and
Yep.
they still have the videos up that the originator
Mhm.
had deleted. And it's just the biggest slap in the face. You know what
Yep.
I mean? Like it's again, you say this to people, they're like, yeah, but they try to reconcile or they try to, come up with some type of justification. But there's just literally, whether you agree or not, the topic of censorship that should bother everyone. That should bother everyone. People like you and I, right? I mean, we fundamentally agree on most things, but there are significant things that we disagree on. But I would never, ever, ever want to censor you, and you wouldn't want to censor me because how else would I know that how else would we display the better idea? How else would we uh, reaffirm our convictions? By, you know, presenting contrast, by welcoming contrast. You know what I'm saying? And I always tell people, like, with the election fraud, with the censoring, all this stuff, if you don't see anything wrong with that, you don't care about America. And these
Mhm.
people laugh. They're like, "Oh, I don't care about them." I'm like, "No, you don't care about freedom. You don't care about democracy. You don't care about any of that. So what's the point of even having this conversation? We have to take these things really seriously because for the people who say, "Oh, it's just masks. It's just this.
I
Don't
know
worry,
they
it'll
do
go
that.
away."
Yeah, it's just a
Okay,
mask.
it'll just always escalate, and it'll just be swab in the butthole, right? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it'll just
Yep.
be crawling to avoid the airborne. Like, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, that whole swab thing is pretty funny. How they somehow accidentally or went over the. How did these U.S. diplomats even allow it to happen in the first place? And then China's real sorry. We're sorry. We actually swabbed your butts, guys. What? This story doesn't even.
Was it actually happening? Like, were
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
actually?
So apparently,
Ah,
U.S. diplomats got the anal swab, but then now China's apologizing for putting them through it. And I don't
it's
even
a
know how
troll.
that. I don't know how that
It
even.
was a troll. It was a troll job. Had to be.
Well, it's an article that came out, right? So I don't have it in front of me, but it's easy to find. You could just type in U.S. diplomat anal swab China, and it would come up. But somehow they forced the U.S. diplomats to do it. Now they're apologizing. They're real sorry that they put the U.S. diplomats and then they're acting like they had no control of somehow. So they're like, well, we won't let that happen again. I'm like, well, why'd you let it happen in the first place then?
First, I think this is ridiculous.
And
No,
if it,
that's a troll job. I'm totally convinced that that had to be like, because I don't think any real scientist or whatever. No, come on, no,
Well, and
this
there, okay,
humiliation.
so and if it takes that kind of thing to, yeah, it's a humiliation ritual, but if it took that to actually detect this, then I think we're looking at a parasite of some kind,
Yeah, exactly.
not a respiratory
Viral and
virus.
like that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, but
Uh,
it's sad. It's sad. But hey, if the diplomats can fall for it, you know, it's. Ugh, man.
yeah.
Sometimes it kind of hurts to like really understand just how far we are in
Yep.
reaching that utopia because it requires a collective level of intelligence or independent thought, right, before we can actually have true freedom. And I'm firm on
Right.
this, right? You and I know, like, I'm like on the 17 wave or whatever, but I think we both agree that along with our president, a group of patriots who actually care about this country and who are actually doing things behind the scenes. You know, kind of lost my train of thought, but these people are very. Oh yeah, they're pretty set on us wanting to fight for ourselves, right? They want us to want freedom because if it's not for them, if they go away, you know what I mean, for whatever reason, this is war. Let's not get it twisted. This is information war, but there are lives lost. So if it's not for them, we don't have a country. We don't have a world, quite frankly. So if we don't want it, if we're not willing to fight for it, it's just going to keep happening over and over and over again. You
Yep.
know, over and over again.
I think, and then there's some people that are ready to go to war or battle, and I'm like, I just want to move to the country and forget it, like
Go
get
off
off the
grid.
grid entirely. But you can't totally escape it. And there was an article that came out recently that more people are moving out of cities and into the country, and so now that's
Hmm.
going to increase the real estate of places like Montana that have country left, and Texas, and which is funny because a lot of Californians are moving to Austin, which is already a blue city. So I guess that's good for some of the rest of Texas. But here we've got a
Did
lot
they
of.
turn it blue though? They moved over and then turned it
No,
blue.
it
Did
was
you?
it was pretty blue already before this mass
Oh, okay.
exodus that's been going on recently. So,
Oh, okay.
but
Sorry, I didn't mean.
well, it's been because it's an artsy fartsy city. So that's there's a lot of
Yeah.
musicians there and things, artists and stuff like that. So you're just gonna tend they're tending to be more liberal. But places that Idaho doesn't have as much land because there's a lot of national forest there. So while it's a big
Mhm.
state, they've got less land. Washington's really small. Montana's huge, and there's plenty of room. North Dakota is too flat. South Dakota is beautiful, but again, they're smaller states. So I think that as people start to make this mass exodus to try to move to the country, and this article was claiming it will continue over the next few years. I'm like, well, yeah, because people don't want to be in these cities that are going to garbage, and they're going to flee, and they're become like Detroit. And yet,
Mhm.
unfortunately, I almost wonder if they plan this too, because it moves them into the red states, and then they're going to
Yeah, yeah,
continue to vote blue
yeah.
probably.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. And I don't know. I'm pretty sold on the fraud that went on, and I've seen like I'm obsessed with like the extremes of the theories, right? And I think
Right.
the election is a very important thing to focus on. But I've seen a lot of counties that Trump went over, and I don't know if America just woke up within the past 2 years, like rapidly, or what. But that was pretty encouraging to me. The scary thing is, you have people who are pretty invested in, you know, Trump, right,
Uh-oh,
per
hold on.
se.
I got it.
Conservative George. Hi.
Sorry,
That was
sorry,
funny.
we're doing a video, conservative George, but sorry.
Well, hey, Conservative
At
George.
least he's back. Hey, conservative
He's
George,
back.
we're doing a video,
What's
so
up?
that's why I'm I'm giving you the boot for now, but well, we can all get on voice later. How about that? Okay.
Cool hat.
He's like, "Oh, they're live. I've got to go."
That
You're
was
on
funny. That was,
YouTube.
yeah.
Yeah, as opposed to
But
Curious George, I guess. Yeah,
yeah, he's curious.
curious and
Um,
conservative.
yeah. What I was just saying is, no matter how much you're a fan of like, particular figure or whatever, it doesn't eradicate like, understanding policy and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So, I, and that's what I worry about. People, and I can say this local, in reference to my local friends and stuff like that. Like, it, some of them are kind of like buying into the America First thing, but they're still like a fan of Cuomo for some odd, weird reason.
Hmm.
And it just goes to show like we have a educate, people as to what's really going on the macro and micro level. You know what I mean? I think when we talk about like people migrating from say California or from New York to Florida and Texas, it's like okay, but why are you leaving? Like are you a single? Is it just because you don't like the weather, or what is it? These are the things that this is where we come in to help people understand that when you have to take your vote seriously. You have to take these politicians seriously. Government in the first place, they already have too much power. When we keep surrendering power to them, like being single issue voters at that, you know,
Yeah.
Democrats historically, even some Republicans, they talk a good game, but they're offering one or two major heavy hitters just so you can cast your vote, and then they can rob everything else from right under you. You know.
Yep. Yeah, which is why I think locally, I tell people your vote will still matter in a lot of local things, especially city council, which people
Yeah.
don't think enough about, but also your legislature in your own state makes a difference. I can show you why that's making a difference right now because our state house and senate are also right leaning and our governor is right leaning, and all restrictions are dropped and the mask mandate dropped pretty much as soon as he got in. So that tells me that that made a difference in my state, and those votes did matter as for the state because when we had our midterms, I watched them. There was some fraud, but it's like it was so overwhelmingly red this time they couldn't try to do
Yeah.
that.
There's no
So
faking
they
it.
couldn't. It's like we saw it kind of hover enough that they fraudulently got this guy another extra 4,000 votes in the midterms, and so he's still one of our congressmen because it was a midterm vote. But like I said, it was so overwhelmingly red this time that they only got that guy an extra 4,000 votes to get him in, and they counted the last liberal counties, or they counted the liberal counties last, right? They're like, oh
Mhm.
well, he's
Yeah.
behind, but we've still got these two college
Yeah.
towns to count up, and he only supposedly won by 4,000. You can't do that when it was just overwhelmingly a red wave, and it's making a difference for us locally. It really,
Mhm.
so it maybe not for the presidencies we saw because that's unfortunately some, like you said, it's so blatant. It's so blatant. It's
Yeah.
sickening, but you can still make a difference locally, guys. And if you don't start locally, that's where we get this huge mess in the national
Mhm.
arena.
Yep. 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 Great point there. Great point. Um, yeah, that was that was a great point. I think also, um, since we're on the topic of election fraud, um, I had a friend where he was just so demonstrative about uh, Trump not being it. Like he's not that popular, and I really want to say this because maybe there's some haven't really put this into perspective. You know, when you look at the basic things like Twitter follows, right?
Hmm.
Or when you look at the contrast in rally sizes, these are things that you're only like doubting or you're only like, pushing back on it because you're biased, right? Like no one's going to say, "Well, I voted for that guy, but, you know, he actually won it," right? Like I kind of worded that wrong, but because you voted for someone, you want to believe value person one that you'll literally ignore all the basic things, right? Like Trump had 70, almost 80 million followers,
Yeah.
and Biden had like 25. And when you look at the rally sizes, that's a major thing. When you look at the views on social media, social
Yeah.
platforms, and YouTube, and I mean now Biden has more dislikes on his videos
Yes.
than likes. I
Lots
mean,
more.
and it's just not like yeah, lots more. Like I mean, exponentially.
Hmm.
These are things that you can deny it all you want, but guys, like you don't have to overcomplicate it. You don't have to allow your bias, or you shouldn't allow your bias to, override your common sense. You know, it's just not that hard. This is
Hmm.
really not that hard. Numbers don't lie. And when it comes down to this election fraud stuff, like when someone says to me, it's been debunked, I always say, by who? By who? Who made the claim in the first place and who debunked it?
Yeah.
Just because the media said it doesn't mean it's correct.
Right. Well, just the opposite, in fact. But unfortunately, there are people that believe and trust in the media, and there's no change in their minds. And we just got to try to wake up who we can if we can. So I like that your channel is going to be devoted to not being fringy like mine has certainly become, and that's okay. I wouldn't change
It
it.
is a good. I love
but
it.
but it's a
No,
good
no,
idea not to, because I kind of realize that you can put yourself in an echo chamber. Well, but that was my intention, was I wanted to find people that thought like me, because in
right,
the business of gold and silver, I got really sick of trying to explain to people that just it was not gonna, you know,
right.
ever ever connect for them. I wanted to find people that I didn't have to tell them why they should buy gold and silver. Instead, I just wanted to tell them why they should buy it from my company, and that's a little bit
yeah,
easier.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
even
yeah.
then, it wasn't always good because you get some people that are like, oh, network marketing,
Well, I really want to have you on. I really want to have
That's
like periodically how I'm on your show because everything that you've been sharing is extremely valuable, even just on your Facebook platform. It's a breath of fresh air, and I think even for people who are new to this realm, this echo chamber, right? Like I think there's a lot of value that's undeniably easy to swallow.
I hope
Um,
so. Praise the Lord. I would love to do that. So, what is your YouTube channel name?
well, I'll let you know when we
Oh,
publish
it's
it.
not
Hopefully,
public.
we can get
Okay.
the show. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, we're still working on the pilot right now, like editing, putting it
Okay.
together. And actually, after that, I'm gonna record maybe one or two new episodes. So
Okay, and if you guys
um,
look down, you can see his 7K medals link. And if you're working with Kevon, you're working with me. So, it's not like you just get each other. It's kind of a whole team. And in fact, you're working with Doc Michael too, and Marie, and I saw Brenda in the chat and Patricia. There's all sorts of people that have been involved in this business, and that's why we have the Discord servers, because we talk about this and keep each other updated. And it's kind of funny because people complain. They're like, there's too many notifications. This is too active of a Discord, which is odd because I'm like, I love that we get in there and talk to each other and lean on each other for more information. And so it's not just one person doing all the educating and understanding. We're learning together, as I say. And one thing I need to bring back that I forgot that I used to say, it was like my motto for the longest time, is we are putting power back into people's lives. Don't lose your power. When your electricity goes out, that's not your power. Don't let them have your power. Let us help you put power back into your life. And the best first step is buying gold and silver. And then we can work on the water purification after that. We can work on the food stocking. We can work on the solar system and all the other things that go along with that. But there's one thing you can start with, and that's gold and silver. So there's the
yeah,
link right there.
link or
I probably
I
still
don't
have your
know.
old Facebook in the description box, so
Oh boy, it's
it
okay.
may not
We'll
be
figure that
accurate.
out.
It may not be updated, but I can update that later. So, any last thoughts you want to share with the group while we're finishing up here on this hour?
No, I mean, just thank you guys for being dedicated, lovers of your country, people who care, right? Like that's the biggest thing, caring.
Yeah.
Because if not us, we can't rely on anyone else. So, thank you. That's really all I got.
Well, thank you for being here. And just so everybody knows, my background has changed because I've moved my desk from this direction to
I
this
noticed.
direction. And I'll tell you my quick sob story. I measured the space, and this desk was going to fit perfectly into this cubby I had here. Before, my desk was too long, and I just kind of had stuff behind it. But it would have been the same view behind me, and it still measures perfectly. But guess what? I forgot. I forgot that I have a baseboard like heater, and so the legs
Um,
don't fit. So
oh yeah,
it's
okay,
like
yeah.
this far from fitting into this cubby, and there's nothing I
Uh,
can do. So I thought, fine, I'll still move it into the cubby. So you see the wall here, that's the cubby area, and then there's a
got it.
thing right
Yeah,
here. And so I'm like, well, I'll still just be there. I'll just have to turn it the other way. And so now you get to see my messy house behind me. And I had to warn my kids. I'm like, now people might see you running back and forth,
yeah.
so maybe I'll put
I haven't
something up.
seen a
I
lot
don't
of
know.
activity today.
Not today. They are with grandma and grandpa. So,
No, okay,
but
so that
these
explains.
are their school desks, and it's a huge mess. And there's the whiteboard, and all my mess up here. So it's just, I got to
Yeah, I
keep it
stayed
looking a
away
little
from
bit more nice before, but yeah, oh well,
it.
it'll work out.
Oh, it can grow on me.
Oh, good. I was thinking like I could hang something here that would just, but it would have to come all the way down because you can see everything. You can see all the way to that window and you can see all the way to here. It'd have to be like all the way across and all the way down. I don't know. Anyway, that's enough of that. So, how I need to have you back on sooner than later. We waited too long,
Yeah,
so I'm glad you brought it up and we got it done.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm glad. I'm glad. I feel good now.
All right.
It's
Well,
pumping me up for
yeah,
my
getting
second.
yeah,
Yeah,
get your show on the road and we'll come subscribe and everybody go subscribe when we know where it is and we know what it's
yeah,
called.
yeah,
In
yeah. I
fact,
got.
we should do a show when that happens and we'll just tell everybody.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, awesome, awesome. Let's do it.
Okay, well then I'm going to let you go on with your day. You have a wonderful day. I enjoyed having you and I'll see you next time.
Likewise. Take care. Bye.
Peace. I was doing the three fingers there. What am I doing? Three fingers for peace, two fingers? I don't know. All right, guys, I love you. I'll be back on actually live again this evening because Miss Crystal and I are going to have a conversation with some testimony, and I think it'll be great. You know, she gets to tell her story. We get to get in on that and be a part of it. So I'll see you guys back here in a couple hours, God willing. I'll let you know if anything comes up to get in the way, but we'll be live again in 2 hours from now. Peace and love of the Lord, all. Good night for now.
You'll see them